How do we build better brands in 2025? I believe it starts with looking at what worked well in 2024. I'm a true believer in no matter what field or what profession you work in, you have to become a student of history. And what that allows you to do is understand in the past what made things great, what made things work well, and then we can take that and understand it and become inspired by it to make better decisions today and in the future. Because most of the time, history repeats itself. I believe a great example of a brand that did well in 2024 and is going to see continued success in 2025 is Ame Leon Dor. And specifically their ability to kind of understand at a core fundamental level, when we generate content that is consumer centric and provides value to the consumer, they're going to engage with us. They're going to want to spend more time with us. They're going to want to watch us. They're going to want to watch our content. That allows us to build better relationship with the consumer and influence them down the road more into making a purchase decision because they're associating automatically cool stuff, cool brand. One of the ways they've done that in the last year is bring DJs into their studio to mix music. I don't know if you've noticed, but in the last year, the YouTube DJ, I would term it, has become kind of a big deal. We saw a multitude of different DJs kind of blow up, and I think with people working more at home and wanting to have good music and kind of getting sick of their Spotify playlist, me involved, it allowed for DJs to come in and start mixing online, and then YouTube automatically started boosting that because it's increasing time on the platform. There's a whole number of reasons why that worked. They realize that their consumers are watching that and engaging in that, and also they have the ability to execute that content with their current assets and create consumer-centric content that is actually enjoyable to watch. Again, we don't really typically associate selling more clothing and house music together, but it works really well in terms of generating organic reach and frequency that they're not having to pay any money for, right? Outside of having to pay the DJ and to be able to put on that production. But I would argue the reach and frequency that they're generating from that is worth its weight in gold. And not just that, but I'll say the association now that a consumer is going to have with that brand when they think about, okay, cool house music, DJing, content that I enjoy, Ame Leon Dor. Very well done. And I think that it deserves to be highlighted and talked about because it allows for us to kind of change our mindset instead of being, this is the marketing plan, this is what we're going to do, consumers are going to enjoy it. How can we bring more value to the content that we're producing to our consumers that we hope to reach and engage with? And I think they've done a great job. And it's not just on YouTube, it's on social media. They worked recently with Porsche, they've worked with New Balance, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. They've worked with several other companies and mediums to be able to generate great content, and it works. You can see it in the numbers. This isn't just some imaginary thing. Their business is doing very well as they're generating a lot of reach and frequency for free. Okay, I want to say that again, for free. So that's pretty cool, and it allows us to think about things differently and make more intelligent decisions for our brand in terms of when we're thinking about what kind of content do we want to produce, how do we want to engage with our consumers, and what kind of strategies we're going to use to get our product, our service top of mind. The next one I want to talk about is Adidas. And again, there's going to be a common theme here, and I'm going to say it over again because it's extremely important. Consumer-centric content wins, right? When you actually provide a very interesting value proposition to the consumer instead of buy our product, you talk about how can we provide value to you, not even in the typical like, oh, we're going to teach you about shoes or something like that, but something that's kind of way out there in terms of like, again, DJing house music. And again, in this example, we're going to talk about sports, which has always kind of classically been leveraged by brands in terms of athlete acquisition and using that to sell more product. Adidas did an incredible campaign in this last year. And I think for a lot of us in terms of associating athletic apparel companies and athletes, it's already kind of a common association. But the way that they did it recently really showed their ability to leverage speed, big moment events that have happened, the sporting world, and generating a ton of organic reach and frequency for free. So what Adidas did in this last year is, there's some big events going on, including the World Cup, Premier League, La Liga, XYZ. There's plenty of sports, obviously. They took moments out of those sporting events that were big time, right? Including Spain winning the World Cup. And they took those photos that they either owned or purchased and they turned them into advertisement. But they didn't say buy the shoe or something like that. They looked at the greater idea in terms of this is something that's awesome. And then they put their branding over it and then they put that out on social media. And I want to highlight again the speed part of this. It wasn't like 4 weeks later or a month later or a year later that they're putting out this ad campaign. This is happening in real time. And it's incredibly impressive that they're able to leverage those moments because if you know how social media works, whatever is hot is what's going to be getting pushed by the algorithm. And when you have the ability to generate these creative assets quickly and that are relevant to the consumer, it's top of mind because things are so fast nowadays. Speed is key here. And that's why I chose to highlight Adidas specifically for this. Their ability to do that generates massive reach and frequency, keeping the consumer top of mind and driving better business results down the line. The third example I want to talk about is New Balance. And this is maybe a little bit more than the last year. Their rebrand started in 2018, I believe, and they've done a great job kind of building brick by brick, their presence in the marketplace, and they've seen it in their sales. Again, in 2021 and 2022, they saw 200% engagement on their organic social media posts. So they obviously know what they're doing. And obviously, again, you can go back to maybe more of a traditional thing of, okay, we acquire athletes, they wear our clothing, that generates sales down the line, because we know that works. But what I want you to think about now is maybe some of the untraditional ways that they're able to leverage that and what it really did in terms of building their brand identity and then generating more sales down the line. Now, I want to specifically highlight what they did with their partnerships. They found several artists and collaborators and they brought them into the fold. And I think like a lot of time when we think about collaborations with brands, we're kind of like, okay, I'm going to pay you money, you're going to come in, you're going to do this, and you can't do this, a large set of things that you can't do. And then, okay, what can you give me now? And it has to be structured in this way. And brands that understand how to do collaborations right win, because the artists, the collaborators, the influencers that you're picking, the creators that you're picking understand already kind of intuitively, how do I generate reach and frequency organically and reach consumers and my consumers and beyond? And when we start to put up red tape and all these different guidelines and stuff like that, it doesn't allow for them to create, number one, contextually relevant content for their audience. And maybe it doesn't perform as well because they understand that they have to create content in a certain way. They have to have their certain style. And again, that doesn't mean changing the entire product. Of course, it's going to be the DNA. And New Balance did a great example of this. So just a couple off the top of my head, they did a collaboration with Joe Fresh Goods that was incredibly successful in terms of driving relevance for the consumers that they're trying to reach. Sleeve Burnberry, Ame Leondor, again, we were talking about them earlier. They've allowed the artists to come in, they've cut a lot of the red tape and create organic content that is going to over-index very well, generate a ton of reach and frequency for free. And again, it's still New Balance, the company, but they're allowing these artists to come in and help build the New Balance identity by bringing them into the fold and allowing them to do what they're going to do. Again, within reason. I'm not saying that they can do anything. Like, obviously, we're not trying to just go way outside the Overton window here, but they cut a lot of maybe the traditional red tape that you would associate with collaboration. And when you do that, it allows for them to have a unique expression of their art. It allows them to help you build the brand image. And when you're very strategic about the people that you choose and allow them to do what they're going to do, it generates a ton of reach and frequency, sales, and engagement on that content. That's going to allow for more sales down the line. Again, the common theme here with all these is when you think consumer centric with your advertising, when you don't think this is how it's going to be, this is how can we best serve the consumer, how can we create unique experiences and look at what's working and operate nimbly on that. And again, I know that's hard. There's a lot of corporate red tape for some of these organizations, but this is for anybody. When you understand how to do that and pick the correct partnership, you can generate reach and frequency for free. And again, I'm going to do a whole nother episode on, maybe paid advertising, paid social, programmatic, because those things done correct are also incredibly effective. And again, it's not one or the other, I'd say it's the combination of the both of them that allows for you to run the peak marketing campaign is what I say. I think, again, kind of the classical problem here is it's very hard to measure, attribution for this. This is not anything new within marketing. It's something that's well documented. But for me, at the end of the day, sales is always the final benchmark in terms of did this thing work or not. And again, that gets incredibly convoluted when you have paid advertising going on and the way that we attribute those things. I understand it's incredibly hard, but I want you to think about maybe not just generating content, but the kind of content that we generate, the kind of campaigns that we generate should have the consumer at the focus. It should always be consumer centric. If we start to think about advertising that way, it becomes extremely interesting in terms of the things that we're able to do, the collaborations that we're willing to go for, the media that we're willing to generate in the name of the consumer to drive better business results down the line. Again, this is not an exhaustive list. This is more around generating the content and top of funnel activities. This is some things that I would say we should think about, some things that have worked really well for these brands in the last year, and things that we can think about as marketers. Again, I think marketing is for everybody, whether you're a huge organization or an individual. Knowing how to communicate on kind of a human level, knowing how to leverage some of these practices allows for us to be more effective in our communication with one another, as well as selling more product and serving our consumers better. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it, share, subscribe, drop a comment down below. You can tell me I'm wrong. That's fine. I'll deal with it. I'll recover. But I hope you enjoyed the video today. And if you want to see more or you have questions, let's chat. Thanks.